Today we have gotten the beta out of the spears from Guild Wars 2 next expansion, and they're very, very cool. I'm gonna give you the first impressions that I had playing all of them in just the first day. So let's get into it. Subscribe to the channel from this. Go to my Ko-fi if you want to support me. Go to my YouTube and memberships. Join there if you want to support me as well. And let's see. So I did essentially every one of the classes. I just tested them all out. Actually, let's put it this way. That way is better. So my face doesn't appear twice. And of course, they are pretty fun. They're pretty fun, most of them at least. And we're going to talk about the exceptions. But overall, I think they all look very nice. I think they're cool mechanics. I think they look fun. They feel fun. And some of them are maybe a bit not, balanced enough. They maybe don't do too much damage. I think last time in Soto, they were all doing way too much damage. I think in this one, they're a bit undertuned, which is honestly not what you would want. I think ideally you want every one of them overtuned so people can enjoy playing them in the beta, and then they can nerf them as much as you have to, because now if there are a few that are undertuned, people are not going to really want to try them out, and you're not going to get as much feedback. So I think they kind of made a mistake in that regard. But regardless, they're pretty cool. Let's talk about first about Elementalist, because it's probably my favorite one. Elementalist, it's very awesome. It's very, very fun. The circles that you use, to essentially you put the circles on the floor, and then you use spells on them to make an even bigger attack at the end is super, super fun. You can pair them with arcane utilities on the right side of your utility bar, and you can make them even faster. And the rotation flows very well on Weaver, on Catalyst, on Tempest. Everything works pretty nice. For Weaver, it's super fun because you can actually and get into full, because I don't know if you guys know, but on Weaver you actually change in between different combinations of elements, fire with air or whatever. But because of the way this one works now, you actually instead, you actually have, you can go into full fire very, very fast, even after becoming air fire, right? Which makes it super easy to actually finish the etchment, and at the same time use the dual attack from both of them as well very easily. Honestly, in some ways, I think they should be transferred to every one of the Weaver specs, just main Weaver. I think it should work this way. It's it's way more fun to have the decision to press 3, use the utility, and be able to go back into your full fire or full air or whatever. It's super, super cool. I really like it. And it flows nicely, and it's super, super fun. The same thing goes for Tempest. I was having a lot of fun just etching, doing the full spell with my abilities on the circle, and then blasting it, and then do my overload, and then change to another attunement and do it again. It floats super nicely. It gives good boons. It's just fun, and you have a good amount of utility as well by changing different attunements to fire, to water, for example, or to air for different things. And also, it just feels like you're actual mage. Like you have a ranged weapon, right? That you can use by just moving around. You don't have to be yourself stuck in the ground. You don't have to do it. You can just wait and just move around while you're casting everything to the enemies while evading mechanics. Is super, super fun, super dynamic. I really, really like it. The next one I tried was Necro. I think Necro for me was a bit disappointing. I didn't really find it that interesting. Not because the weapon is not fun, but because it plays more or less the same way that any other Necro weapon would play. You press the buttons in a certain order, and then you go to Reaper form. Well, you put your wells, you go to Reaper form, you do whatever you have to do on your Lich form, and then you just, go and do it again. So even though it has some cool, you are creating the shards and using the shards in order to actually attack and use them to build them up and do a big attack at the end, it always plays the same way, so it ends up not being very fun. You just build a shard, then you press 2, then you do it again, right? And of course, because the cooldowns are so long, you just get your shards, use 2, go to Shroud, and just do it again, right? And it's not really that interactive. In PvP, I did try this, and it did seem pretty interactive, as you're not going to be doing this all the time. You're actually going to be choosing when to use each of the abilities. So it worked pretty well for PvP, but for PvE, it doesn't seem like it's working pretty well. It's also not doing a lot of damage, which makes it also very unenjoyable right now. But yeah, I think it needs a bit more polish to actually make it as interesting. I don't think it's really bad. I just don't think it's very good. And considering the fact that these are very important, they are very good weapons overall, I think they need to be up to par. But we'll definitely see what they do. Actually, I guess what would I do? I'm not really sure. I would have to think about it. I probably will do this in my, in a big review of the weapons at the end of the week, and I'll tell you what I think they should do with this one. So I'm actually kind of confused. I'm not really sure what you can make it to make them actually interactive, but I'll think about it. Mesmer was also pretty good. One of my favorites, actually. I don't know if you guys know, but the number 2 on Mesmer has a very specific ability. The one gives you the special ability of this weapon, which is if you use it and it hits on the edges of the ability, you will actually get a special effect, but only if it's on the edges. And it's pretty forgiving. It was actually pretty easy to actually use it. I was kind of scared, like, oh, maybe it's going to be very hard and you're never going to get the effect. But it was happening more or less every time that I did it. Is that circle that you just saw there. And after that, you will get a specific effect that you can do to, for example, press 3 and do more. Well, actually 4 and do more damage. 3, and I think it was give some boons. I don't actually remember. And 5, do more CC, which is actually pretty interesting, right? So you can, depending on the situation, depending on what you want, you can use it on whatever. For me, of course, in PvE, you can use it on the 4 to do more damage. And of course, you can also use your 5 to reset your 2, so you can do it again, and then use your, for example, Signal of Ether to make your 4 go again. And you can use this over and over again. It's super, super fun, super interactive, and I really, really liked it. I've heard that it's very not that good in PvP or in War vs. World right now. We'll see how it ends up working, but it seems that, maybe it's too difficult to hit moving targets with it. But maybe too inconsistent, but we'll see how it ends up working. I think it's a cool idea. It just, maybe needs a bit more polish. Of course, it's the beta. This is going to be happening over and over again, right? We're going to have some, some feedback to give, some stuff to give. Ranger was also very fun. I really liked it. Essentially what happens here is you use your 5 to get stealth and use the stealth version of the each of the attacks 2, 3, or 4. It was pretty simple. Just probably most of the time you would use 5 to make your 2 stronger to do more damage. You use 4 afterwards if you want to jump you leap and you do a bit more CC, and you use 3 if you want to do a range attack instead of the normal attack, right? So it has a good amount of situations for using this. It was actually pretty easy to use, pretty fun to use, and you can also use 5 again after being on stealth to give a little bit of trap, a red of like a net to use against enemies. Overall, it was pretty simple, pretty fun as well. Nothing to be like, oh my god, this is insane. It's probably better in PvP, I'm guessing. But in PvE, it seems very fun, even if it's not super, super, super complex. The next one was Thief. Thief was also pretty interesting. It ended up in PvE. I feel like it just meant, I feel like you're just gonna end up doing 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 all the time, or maybe 2, 2, 3 to get stealth, and then use your stealth attack. Because what happens is that, as you can see there, the moment you press 2, it flips over to the next skill, and both 2 and 3 flips over every time. So you can choose between using number 1 ability on 2 or 3, number 2 ability on 2 or 3, number 3 ability on 2 or 3, and depending on which one, you can just blast, right? So, but I think in PvP it's going to be way more interesting because you have your 5 to block attacks and get your lead attack going. So you start on the second attack, or you can use your 4 to have a range attack while also starting the lead attack, so you can continue on the mid attack, right? The follow-up attack, right? So I think it's very fun. I think in PvP and War vs. World, specifically roaming, I think it'll be very fun. I'm not sure so much in PvE. I think in PvE it's just gonna end up being like you press all the times the same button, and sometimes depending on the situation, maybe you use your 4 instead to get a bit more damage out in terms of CC, and also in terms of because you can range attack it, and maybe your 3 just to go in stealth in certain builds. It'll be useful. But yeah, I mean that's more or less what it is. The next one I tried was Warrior. Honestly, Warrior is pretty simple. It doesn't really have a lot going for it. It's just you attack. And if you're close to the boss, well, you attack more. Okay, that's kind of what it is. It's very, very simple, but it doesn't mean it's not fun. Actually, I would say it's more fun than something like Necro, to be honest. Even though Necro has a bit more complexity, because of the fact that you know that if you're closer, you do more damage. You kind of want to be close to the boss, and if it moves, and you're like, damn, I need to get closer. Now, the problem is that it doesn't really. You don't have a lot of mobility on it. You have a attack that goes backwards, but not forward. So you're not really chasing anything. I feel like it needs a leap. I feel like it's okay to have one ability that pushes you backwards, but it should have an ability that pushes you inwards as well, I think. Because otherwise, it kind of doesn't it kind of doesn't really do a lot. It's just like, okay, I mean, I guess I just walk to him. It'd be kind of cool if there's like, oh, you know, there's abilities that move you backwards and some of them that move you forwards, and that way you have to, you know, use them sparingly to actually be close to the boss and be able to and do enough, you know, actually do more damage, right? That being said, one of the big abilities that I really liked is the Berserker F1, because the adrenaline is just like you launch a lot of spears. I think that's super cool. It's like probably in Berserker you probably could change it for Greatsword and go for spears instead, and just so axe spears, and I think it would make it very fun, for sure. But yeah, I think the animation is not that big. I think War is definitely one of the weakest in terms of animations. I do think I played PvP a little bit at the end as well, as with Spellbreaker Warrior, and I actually found it very fun. It's actually very interesting, because your F1 makes you evade. So because you have your fall counter, that makes you evade, and then you reset your F1, you can do F1, evade, F2, evade, F1, evade, F2, and you guys do it forever and be like immortal, which is very cool. I think it's lacking a bit of the more adrenaline regeneration, but maybe you can do that with a build, so it's probably not that big of a deal. But yeah, for Revenant, it's actually pretty interesting. I think the mechanics here are not that interesting, but I don't think they're unfun. What you do essentially is just you blast your 5 over and over again to get like a very big, you know, a powerful effect on you that does more damage, and eventually you will, after you switch weapons, it'll explode and do damage to the enemy, which is pretty cool. And also your 2, 3, and 4 will make the 5 go down in cooldown. So you just want to do 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 2, 3, 4, or whatever, and then 5, 5, 5, as much as you can until you get 5 stacks, and then you switch weapons. The animations are pretty cool. Maybe a bit too much, but they're pretty cool, I think. But it does feel like, at least on Herald, it felt like it was a bit power starving. Like I feel like I was not having enough energy to actually do what I wanted. Now, I have heard and actually tried a little bit on Renegade, and it seemed like it was way better. But also the mechanic I don't think is really that interesting. You just blast 5, and then you press the other buttons to do more 5. So is it the most interesting thing ever? Not really. Is it the most interactive? Not really. But it's not super unfun. It looks cool. Do we really need more than that? I mean, we could have that more than that, but yeah. Also, those little thingies that we saw there, because you press 4 and you dodge, and at the same time, no, it's 3, and you dodge and you put these little orbs there. I mean, it's kind of cool, but I don't know why the orbs are there. You know, like they're just chilling there, doing nothing, right? And if you put them in the incorrect place, there's nothing you can do. So I'm not sure if there's a best mechanic. I feel like I would put like a little flip over skill on 3, so you can make the orbs come to you or something. So that I think could be useful. But yeah, it's just you know, it looks cool. That's about it, right? Now for engineer, I actually have a bit of problem. So the way this works, everyone's following me. The way this works is that you focus one of them with your 2. You get a little icon there, and then your abilities will get some more attacks, some more effects on it. For example, 3, it will launch them outwards. 4, you will 4, you will launch them outwards. 3, you do more damage. And 5, you will this is the attack on 5, right? Like this little big attack. Even if they're not close to you, all these thunders, this lightning, will actually be directed to the focused person, right? Which is which is pretty good, right? But the thing is, because you only have this way of actually interacting with the focus and like actually focusing, giving the effect of focus to enemies, it really seems kind of boring. Because like you just press 2, you get it on one guy, and then you're like, okay, I guess I just press the other buttons now. It doesn't really seem like there's a bit of any thought on what you actually do with it. So I think we have a little bit of a problem. I don't think it's really that fun. I don't think it's very impressive. And I also don't think the effects are very interesting. Like, it's just more damage. Like, who cares? Now, it is pretty cool that this one, the lightning rod, the more enemies you attack, the more damage you're gonna do. And you also end up with this little spear here. You can like launch it, which I think is pretty cool. Boop, you just launch it. And of course, if this focus, it'll do a bit more damage, right? I think that's pretty cool, right? Like you can see here, there you go. Hold your immobilizing them, take increased burn duration and burn limited stacks based on your lonely round range. Yeah, I guess it doesn't really, it just does more damage when it's focused, right? And that's about it, right? So it's not that interesting. I think this one is probably one of the my least favorites with Warrior. I think we need a little bit of I don't know if I really design, but like something to make the rotation work with each other, like make it interactive. Like, oh, why do I want to focus that enemy? Why do I want to focus the other one? Can I focus multiple ones so I can actually get more advantage of certain situations? What are we doing here? Because it really doesn't seem like it has, like, yeah. So like, I really don't. I don't know. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense. The animations are pretty cool though. The out attacks are pretty cool. The 2 is pretty cool. You have a little movement. You have the 3 that is actually pretty cool. Everything is pretty fun. It's just that it doesn't really make sense, and we kind of need. I think it needs a little bit of work in that regard. So we'll see. I'll think about it for next video that we have on the full review of the elites, of the new spears. But until then, I guess we'll see, right? Now for Guardian, it is actually one of my favorite ones. I didn't expect them to be. But it is very good. I think it has some problems, but we'll talk about that. So, how does this one work? Each of the weapons, each of the attacks that you will do will eliminate your weapon. You can see a little icon right here, right? And this will make it so the next weapon you use, the next skill you use, will have a special effect, right? So your 2, you will heal enemy allies, and you'll do a bit more and give more boons. The 3, I think, cleanses conditions, and the 4 one makes it so you can actually get more of those little circles that appear when you pursue your 4, right? And the 5, yeah, those ones, right? And the 5th one makes it so your what is the word? Your next abilities will all be illuminated, but if they're the fifth ability is illuminated, no matter if you're actually in that symbol that you can see there, you will still be able to use it regardless, right? Everything will be eliminated regardless of you being there, which is super useful. Now, I think all those things are pretty nice. It does seem like a weapon that is like for overall support. It doesn't really seem like it's a damage weapon. It does do damage a little bit, but I think it's more like a support weapon. But I think the biggest thing, the problem is that it doesn't really seem really reactive. If it's like you can just spam all the buttons, well, to be fair, I guess you can only spam the buttons if you're like DPSing. If you're like actually healing, you will reactively use the abilities, so it won't actually work that way. So I guess in that regard, it should be fun. I just haven't played it with it enough, but I am kind of worried that because if you spam all the buttons, you will indeed just have illuminated all the time, because one weapon, it consumes the illumination, but then creates the next illumination. So you can just blast over and over, and you'll just be fine, which makes it kind of useless. Because, like, what's the point of actually thinking about it if every one of my abilities will be illuminated? It doesn't really. It almost feels like it should consume the one that you use, but not make the next one. Like if you're illuminated, you won't be able to get the next one, and if you're not illuminated, you will get illuminated for the next attack, right? I think maybe that's the way that it should work. Because otherwise, it just seems a bit like, what's the point? It's almost like illumination doesn't even exist. You just always have it. Which, what's the point then? Overall, the animations look pretty cool, though. I kind of like them. So there you go. But that's about it. That's all the weapons. I think overall, they look pretty good. I think some of them need a bit more work, though. I think the best ones, obviously, I think are... I really liked... Yeah, I think Mesmer is almost perfect. I think Ellie is almost perfect. He just needs more damage because he's not really doing enough. I think Thief is probably pretty good as well. Ranger is very good as well. And I think the rest ones are pretty okay. I feel like Warriors... No, actually no. I think Guardian's pretty okay. I think Thief is pretty okay. I think Rev is pretty okay. And I think Warrior... needs help. I think Engie needs help, and I think Necro needs help. So it's a bit of everything, right? I do think these things can be fixed. I don't think it's going to be like, oh my god, it's over. It's going to be like short bow all over again. At the end of the day, they'll make it work. They'll change the things that they have to change. As long as we get feedback, and that's what you guys should be doing. Well, I guess that's what I'm doing right here. I think everything will be fine, but we do need to give that feedback, and hopefully they'll figure out a good way of making it work. I'll definitely think about ways of fixing this in the first place, but yeah, there you go. But yeah, subscribe to the channel if you want to this. Go to my coffee if you want to support me. And see you soon. Love you all. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.